Dear Diary, the last few days have been quite weird to say the least. It started when I took a job from the Chief of Police, the objective to break into his own HQ. I would think this was a bit insane, but as he was hiring a guy who had already been fiddling with all the evidence, it just seemed to me to be a natural progression of things. I asked the police chief why he couldn't just get the info he wanted, but apparently there is a bit of internal rivalry between the departments. I didn't think anything he said was actually related, but who am I to argue with the police chief of the actual police? Once I got to police HQ, there was no way in from the side of the building I was on, so I climbed up and over to get into an open door on the top floor for reasons of I don't know. After face planting on the ground due to missing the ledge, I climbed back up, turned off the lights on the top floor to annoy the officer up there, and then opened the security door for him, running away as I did so. Hiding just above him outside, and resisting the temptation to prod him off the edge, I followed him into the building and ran down the stairs. I was in. I thought about turning off the lights on the next floor, but I had no control over the wiring yet, so the door would open due to the motion sensor, I would have to escape downstairs, and that would probably get me shot. So instead, I first locked the top floor guard into the other room so I could go up and down the stairs without the risk of bullets, then turned the light off and ran upstairs to safety. Now there was one confused police officer wondering why the door always seemed to open and close as he was walking towards it. I decided to use this to my advantage. When he opened the door for me, I quickly hit the wire jack point and ran upstairs to safety again. Considering this was police HQ, they seemed to be oddly fine with all of the electrical issues in the building. Next thing to do was to turn off the lights, but the first time I tried it, the guard went to the nearest light switch, promptly turning them back on again. With that situation fixed, I got back to work turning off the rest of the lights in the building. By now they must have realised that something isn't right, but nope, just patrolling back and forth as normal. I used a motion sensor to lock a patrolling officer out of the lift room, so I could prepare for the rest of my dastardly plan. Then I realised I was locking people in the room with the thing I needed to access. Plan thus adjusted, I locked the guards in the room on the other side of the building, using a light switch on the top floor to lock out the first floor guard. Next step was the complete building blackout. Luckily, there was a sound sensor on the ground floor, which I used to turn off the lights when the lift went ding! With the building blacked out, I stole another laptop because, well, one in Rome, I might as well take something. Turns out not all the cops thought that Katie was a murderer, but enough of them were lazy donut eaters to counter the ones trying to be useful. Between me and my objective were 2 vault doors that would close after a few seconds of being activated, so I had to be quick. Using a light switch and a camera, I activated them both and ran through. I had the data I needed. Using a similar trick to get back out, I ran outside and once again scaled the building, as apparently I couldn't leave the same way I arrived. This time, being careful not to fall, I dropped down the floor so I could lock the guard on the other side of the building. Apparently a door opening in front of him randomly didn't faze him at all and he just walked straight through it. I thought about locking the other 2 rooms but decided to sod it and just dive for the exit with the trousers. Mission complete. I told the police chief where the data was found, and apparently the officers were up to something naughty. The police chief wanted more evidence, however, before he went public. Now was the time, I thought, to upgrade my arsenal, so I tested out a new gadget called the Long Shot. This would let me rewire guns, they could do things other than kill me. I wired a guard's gun to the lights, so I went up and he didn't shoot me, instead confused himself turning off the lights, meaning the trousers could do the rest. I didn't want to think about what might happen if I missed the jump. It would probably be nasty, but luckily I didn't miss it. Next I wired a guard's gun to instead activate his mates, so when he tried to shoot me, he effectively shot himself in the back, leaving me free to jump on the recently confused second guard, and steal a nearby laptop to donate to the family of the deceased. This gadget seemed like it would be quite useful. The next thing I did was decide to test out what might happen if I actually armed myself and took a gun with me, because as long as I was aiming at guards, they probably wouldn't shoot me, but I would have to actually aim at them, or it could go quite badly. I'd also have to make sure to keep the gun on the target, because if I lost focus for some reason or another, they'd probably shoot me as well. I'd have to be careful when shots are heard, because that tends to get the police called, and they would cover all the exits, making it hard for me to exit the building. In the end, however, if I didn't fire the gun, but instead use it to hold guards in place, or make them slowly move back, it could be a worthwhile addition to my gadget collection. Luckily, guards were too thick to actually follow me up a lift, or maybe they were just not allowed. Anyway, as long as I made it out before the police were called, it would probably be quite useful. I decided to buy the long shot and then contacted the chief of police, who had some new leads for me to follow. After trying to defend how I seem to be spending most of the days so far for the past month, the chief revealed his new lead. Someone just across from the building where Selena was killed purchased technology like the stuff that was being used by the murderer. I couldn't believe there was someone else near the building that had bought some special trousers as well, so I agreed to break into the guy's apartment. First thing I had to do was to make sure the police weren't watching, so firstly I used a motion sensor to turn off all the lights I could. I also closed the door in front of another officer so he couldn't see the building. I'd still have to be careful where I climbed, as the other coppers could probably see me if I was on the other building climbing up it. I'd also have to be careful of breaking glass and setting off alarms, because guards don't use lifts but they do use stairs. I jumped into the building with the guards and nicked a laptop. Turns out Mark was being very naughty indeed. He wasn't locking his computer so people could read his emails, which is always a bad mistake. Using the noise to lure the guard up, I jumped through the window of the guy's apartment. It looked strangely familiar. I mean, I thought I'd been here before and seen a lot of this stuff before. Then I saw the broken window at the other side of the apartment and realised it was my apartment I was breaking into, and so it was my details the police chief had. Taking the evidence anyway, as I was professional, I once again flung myself out of the window onto the ground below. Realising there was a guard in Selena's office, so I probably wouldn't want to go up to the window there, I instead went into the building through the broken ceiling. I started fiddling with the electronics whilst I was in there. I opened the door to the exit, and after annoying the guard by going up and down the lifts a bit, I ran to the exit. I decided to carry on confusing everyone by being completely honest with all the information I was gathering. That would probably end up incriminating me, but I handed over the documents anyway. Once the police chief had finished insulting my wonderful trousers, he disconnected. So there we have it, Diary. I was once again getting paid perplexingly well to investigate myself. I had some new gadgets, and my luck was holding strong. It was going to run out at some point, but I didn't care about that.